Welcome to International Coffee Partners, ICP. We're glad to have you with us today. Our topic today is Stronger After the Crisis, Resilience in Coffee Farming. I'm Sarah, and I'm here at the farm of Terra Nachimuli in Luweero, Uganda. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the world. Smallholder coffee farming families had their own very specific challenges during this crisis. It placed additional pressure on a livelihood situation which is already vulnerable to low productivity levels, effects of climate change, and damages caused by pests and diseases. International Coffee Partners, or ICP, is supporting smallholder coffee farming families for over 20 years now. With the learnings from the projects, families in ICP projects were able to react and mitigate the impact of the lockdowns. But we also learned a lot. Not only how to use digital tools, families need to be more resilient to external shocks. Diversification ensures food security, and social stability within the family lowers the risk of domestic violence, just to name a few things. How the ICP approach equips smallholder farming families to deal with different challenges and crises was the topic of a panel discussion at the Terra Madre Salone del Gusto 2022 in Turin, Italy. Giuseppe Lavazza, Vice Chairman of the Lavazza Group, Claudia Munoz, Technical Coordinator at Hans-Ernst Stiftung Central America, and Victor Komakech, Regional Manager at Hans-Ernst Stiftung, Uganda, were on stage.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Michele Fino. I'm a professor at the University of Gastronomic Sciences, and it's a pleasure for me today to introduce you Giuseppe Lavazza, ICP Steering Committee member and Vice President of Lavazza Group, Claudia Munoz, who is connected with us through Zoom, a technology that, thanks to the pandemics, have become familiar to many of us, and today help us to host her in Turin while she is currently in America. And of course, Victor Komacek, that is from Uganda. And both Claudia and Victor are involved, one as a technical coordinator and the other as a regional project manager with Hans Neumann Stiftung activities in those countries. Hans Neumann Stiftung is an international non-profit organization that works with youth in particular in order to involve youth in projects to tackle problems of development in our world, working in different countries of different continents. But the meeting of today is promoted by ICP, that is an international organization that I like the most, is defined as a pre-competitive organization that is a very interesting concept. ICP, International Coffee Partners, is a pre-competitive partnership among different companies, familiar companies that produce coffee in Europe in particular. And Giuseppe Lavazza represents one of these families involved in ICP. So as the first question, I'd like to ask Giuseppe, what is ICP and why Lavazza has become proud partner of ICP?
Thank you, Michele. Good afternoon, everyone. As Michele mentioned, ICP, it's an acronym of International Coffee Partner, was founded in 2001 by a group of family companies, privately held companies, belonging to the big coffee industry. Some of them, 4 were roasters, and 1 was a trading company, a large trading company. Why this company decided at the time to join the forces and financial to try to provide a specific intervention towards coffee communities and smallholder farmers in the most important coffee producing countries. So the original idea of ICP was exactly this one, to provide a new and a different kind of intervention, a new model to try to sustain the farmer with a transfer of know-how, of skills, competencies, in the idea of making them much more entrepreneurial, much more resilient to the hazard of the market, much more stable economic and financially, and to help them to adopt the best agricultural practices within the foundation of our job, to protect the environment and to offer protection under the economical point of view, and at the same time under the social point of view. So it was a little different approach to other trials of intervention, as for example the fair trade, because in our position we wanted to respect the values and the principle of the free market and to keep the farmers exactly in the main flow of the free market, not just providing them helps and subsidies, but as we always mention, the road they can fish the fishes, and of course the skill to know how to fish the fishes. This is because we think that, of course, intervention on the supply chain, on the value chain, could be very useful, but they can be limited in time. We wanted to try to provide a different model to give to the farmers the chance to be resilient long term. Of course, this was a big challenge, a big bet at the beginning, but we tried to do that.
Great introduction to the topic of the day. Well, actually, I think that you were foreseeing in advance many problems, but probably not all of them that came later. And we are here today with Claudia and Victor to explore some of them and explore the projects that ICP is promoting in different countries. Therefore, I would like to leave a word to the floor to Claudia in order to ask her to present what with the foundation Neumann she is doing in America in order to tackle the problems that are typical of the area where she works, and what are the projects that she is promoting on behalf of ICP.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you for the invitation. For me, it's a pleasure to participate in this event. Okay, with respect about the crisis provoked by COVID-19, we have two main challenges in the region. Initially, the food insecurity, this is a big problem in the region, and COVID increased this problem. And in a sec. Okay. In the same period of COVID-19, we have two strong storms in the region called Eta and Iota. Yeah. This storm provoked more problems already about food insecurity, so and increased poverty. Okay, and the second impact of the COVID is in relation with the increase of production costs due to labor shortage and price increase of fertilizers, agrochemicals, and transportation. Due to this factor, farmers lost the capacity of investment, especially homes with less income source, and increasing the levels of poverty and food insecurity. Yeah. So we have two main problems with the COVID-19 and the storms. Okay, our strategies, you said our projects ICP taking different levels. Okay, I want to explain two strategies in the regions. The first one was developing and implementing diversification strategies, promoting intercropping in coffee farms, including avocado, lime, banana, also beans and maize. In other words, we promote agroforestry systems, also the production of organic fertilizers in order to decrease production costs and decrease the vulnerability of farms. The objective is to keep or increase the productivity under this model. For our ICT projects, it's fundamental to support any strategy that increases food security. In this sense, our projects promote the strengthening of soft skills and the access to inclusive financing, facilitate the creation of entrepreneurship linked to the coffee value share or not. Both options have the potential of increasing the family income in our communities. And the second strategy was the creation of revolving funds so that women and young people can access financing easily and quickly. To achieve this solution is necessary a strong work about organizational development. In the region, the ICP projects have supported almost 100 farmer organizations through trainings and technical assistance. These actions are fundamental to strengthen coffee communities for our is a good strategy to strengthen coffee communities, farm organization, and the farmers. Well, this is a summary about the main challenge and the main strategies.
Great. Thank you for these insights that are precious. And before leaving parole to Victor, I'd like to invite you to pay attention to what Victor will tell us, because there is a specific topic that in Europe we normally do not consider. We are usually thinking that in countries where coffee is produced, manpower shortage is not a problem. But today, actually, the fact that many transfer from the countryside to the urban life, even in those countries, or transfer abroad because they migrate, this gives a problem that is a peculiar problem of every orchard producer in the world, but in particular is severe for coffee, because coffee takes a lot of human labor, and therefore to help people to find the reason and good conditions to pay their work into coffee fields is fundamental. Please, Victor, tell us about your land and the projects that ICP is leading there.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, let me bring you greetings from the farmers in Uganda.
Thank you.
Yeah, they send you greetings and they greatly appreciate the good partnership and the work that ICP is doing, the long-term and dedicated commitment that you have to support them to improve their livelihoods. ICP has been a long-term partner to the small-scale farmers, not only in Uganda, but in different parts of the world. So to date, I would say in Uganda, since 2004, we have been working together with the ICP. So it's a trusted partner, yeah, I would say. The question that was raised about the challenges that the farming communities face, I would mention that the first one in Uganda, I'm basing mostly on the Ugandan scenario, is poverty. Poverty is a key challenge that we have in the country and also among the small-scale farmers. Two, we have issues of the fact that there is poor farming practices among the farmers, so they could have produced better coffee, high quality coffee, higher quantities of coffee, but because of the unsustainable farming practices, they are not able to do this.
Yeah.
Another key challenge is that the farmers are not organized. When you're organized into a group, when you're organized into a farmer organization, when you come together, there's a lot of benefits that come with that. Because then you can negotiate.
Yeah.
You have a heavier voice as a team. You can negotiate for better prices. You can even advocate for services that you require. So that is one other challenge. Another challenge I may mention is about gender disparities. I would say in my country, they say coffee is a man's crop. And yet it is the woman who does most of the work on the coffee farm. So at the end, when it comes to harvesting, the man harvests the coffee. The woman and the family harvest the coffee. The man takes for selling, and then he uses the money the way he wants. Another challenge is climate change. Climate change is really having a very serious adverse effect on coffee production. So sometimes you put in a lot of effort, but when drought strikes, coffee is very sensitive to weather changes. So anything that happens in terms of changes in the weather patterns, other than what it is expecting at that particular time, will then result into low productivity and also poor quality of coffee. One other issue I would mention is about the youth issue, because the youth, in most cases, as professors mentioned, is that coffee requires labor, of course. But when you look at the youth from our countries, in most cases, they tend to prefer, quick money. They want quick money. They don't want to get involved in coffee. Say that's for old people. How do I go into agriculture? That in my hands with soil, So they would like to look for better lives. So they leave the countryside and they move out. Some of them want to migrate to Europe. Others go to the trading centers to do, petty jobs that sometimes is not even sustainable for them. So in that case, that's why I would like to really greatly appreciate ICP, because we have what we call the ICP livelihood approach, which we are implementing, which addresses these challenges that I have mentioned. In terms of unsustainable farming practices, we are training farmers. We are training farmers on sustainable farming practices so that they can be able to produce better quality coffee and also of the right quantity. We are also mobilizing farmers into farmer organizations, so structuring them right from the grassroots in producer organizations, and apexly we organize them into farmer cooperatives so that they can bulk their coffee together. I have 2 kilograms, I have 10 kilograms, I have 50, we put it together, and then the quantity is bigger, and then we can attract better prices. So these farmer organizations also offer extension services to the farmers. And then they also, besides marketing services, they offer agro-inputs to be used on the farm, the seedlings, and many other agro-inputs that they require on the farms. They also, of course, offer various services that also the cohesion alone. When you're with someone, you sit together, you talk to each other, you guide each other. It's quite important to bring the farmers together. We are also handling climate change. We do climate risk assessments with the farmers, site-specific, to identify what are the major climate challenges that exist in that community and come up with climate change action plans that we are able to support. For the youth, train them on entrepreneurship, help them to like agriculture, to love agriculture, and then also talk to the parents to be able to offer them land so that they can settle down and get involved in agriculture. So the intergenerational change is something that's key for us, and that's what ICP is doing. And that's why we have more happy farmers out there in Uganda and other parts of the countries where ICP works. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Very clear, and particularly very clear the fact that ICP works on an axis that goes from environment to social, okay, with results that are very relevant in these two senses. But you mentioned twice, and this is why I would like to come back very quickly to Giuseppe for a second. You mentioned twice the fact that coffee producers with this gathering, thanks to the projects of ICP, also in some way unite themselves and get a force in terms also of trading that could be something not in the interest of the companies that at the end of the day finance these projects, you know, because thinking of smallholders that remain separate, the prices could be better. Therefore, this enhances, in my opinion, the long sight foreseeing of the partners that created ICP, because even if if this movement could resolve itself into having more organized farmers, but it guarantees better conditions for the coffee of the future and a better resilience in the challenges of the day, also for the industries that roast coffee. What are, in this moment, according to the point of view of a great company like Lavazza, the main challenges for the coffee industry production for this year and the next couple of years?
But the global framework is based on the fact that coffee producing countries remain quite fragile in terms of capability of tackling international crises. This is an historic fact that is related to the dimension of the farmers. We are talking about 25 million of farmers all around the globe, but the majority of them, the vast majority of them, a very small farmer with a little portion of land. We are talking about an average of 1 hectare and no more. So of course it's a very fragile chain in terms of financial and economics. This is why we are so committed and try to reinforce the supply chain of the smallholder farmers, strengthening farmer organization everywhere we can do it, of course, and try to provide them all the helps to become more independent and even more diversified in terms of risk. So the total dependency on coffee, of course, is a big constraint for these players. Then especially over the pandemic, we try to help them to diversify the activity and the production. In the same time, to the cooperatives, of course, to enlarge the size of the economical platform of each community to get better condition in terms of purchasing, for example, some fundamental factors as fertilizer, seed stems, and everything of that. Credits, of course, is another big issue. So another important fact is that, of course, when we started working with the farmers, of course, we approached them very gently because we immediately discovered that we had to try to convince them to take up our help. We didn't go there just forcing them to accept our model, but it was a very, very long path we did together, accompanying them side to side and learning from them what was the most efficient way to provide help and to convince help to adopt a certain type of model. At the beginning, we were very focused on production, of course, because it was immediately lever to increase the livelihood of the coffee farmers, related, of course, to environmental issues, of course, and social issues. But as Victor mentioned, nowadays the projects are more and more complex with a lot of layers of variables we have to take into consideration. And so many social issues, of course, related to gender equality, generational transaction. But nowadays, for example, coping with a high inflation, this is a new hazard where we have to tap into our projects and our approach. Unfortunately, every year we discover something more that is really tackling us very much. So flexibility is very important, first of all. Reactivity is very important. And of course, a global cooperation among public and private could be a key to try to be successful on the long term. And that is very key.
It sounds really, really interesting, the horizontal approach that you are underlining, not coming and helping from top to down, but entering into a relationship with the communities, exchanging knowledge, and together ameliorating the condition of production.
Just
and
want
also
to add one thing. At the beginning, we started thinking that the average span of a project in a coffee producing country had to be 3 years. But after some trials, we immediately understood that the span of 3 years is nothing when you work in coffee producing country. So we extend the span of the project to 6 years and sometimes to 9 years, just to make you clear, as is very, very important to try to work with a long-term vision and not just to have an immediate effect in terms of marketing and communication.
Yeah.
So being in the country since 2001, now we are celebrating more than 20 years of activity with our partners. I think this is one of the main achievements we can put on the table.
Yeah.
And of course can give us the courage and the hope that we are doing the right things. And many others are coming.
Right. Thank you for these insights again. And I have a couple of last questions for Claudia and Victor, but we are in the last 10 minutes of this conference, and therefore, if some of you have some questions, we have a corner there at the table where you can leave your eventual questions, and we will be able to ask our guests. Claudia and Victor, I would like to ask you, on behalf of my university, University of Gastronomic Sciences, is largely focused on sustainability. And therefore, biodiversity and fostering biodiversity is a fundamental topic of our university. Can you tell us something about the project that you are implementing in the land where you work in order to improve the sustainability under the environmental point of view and eventually the biodiversity related with coffee production? Claudia, may we start with you?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, with respect to biodiversity, we promote agroforestry system, how I said. The idea is to preserve natural areas around the coffee farmers, and we have several alliances with other institutions with this objective. And in the farm, in the field, the idea is to promote the inclusion of other species, not only obviously coffee, fruit trees, good trees, and other species to maintain or to preserve biodiversity and obviously food security. That is the strategy, like the promotion of food agroforestry. Central America is a good region to promote biodiversity because the shade is a good practice promoted during decades. So the idea is to preserve many species in the field. And the alliance with other institutions is key because we can't do many things, but we need the support of other people. And in this case, is a key action promote the biodiversity, but to the farmer organization. Farmer organizations are the engine in the communities. So they can produce seeds and other plants to promote these actions. That was the question, right?
Yeah,
Respect to
thank you.
biodiversity.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Victor, can you tell us something about this topic?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I would say that I think the key thing is to understand, first of all, why is there degradation?
Yeah.
Yeah, and to my perspective, the biggest cause of land degradation or the environmental degradation in my country, especially, is coming from poverty. Because poverty is one thing people want to, make use of, go into the forest, cut the forest, sell the firewood, sell charcoal, which is, So what we are doing under the ICP right now is really to tackle the issue of poverty by improving the livelihoods of the small-scale farmers. So how can you turn your farm into a business? Because in most cases, farmers don't look at the coffee farm as a business. But once you look at the coffee farm as a business, that means you are going to focus on it, you are going to manage it in the best way possible, apply all the best practices, and I'm telling you, your coffee farm will become your office. So that's one thing that we are really trying to advise the farmers to turn farming into a family business. Two, as I said, we are also promoting what we call nature-based solutions to businesses. Like, for example, we are promoting beekeeping, we are promoting mushroom production, we are promoting tree nurseries as a business, in the community. So that also gives the youth, especially, jobs, because once they're engaged in such enterprises, they are able to make some money that can help them to. But we are also supporting farmers with sustainable farming practices. How do you manage your soils in the best way possible? How do you manage nutrients, for example, in your soil? Because the way you manage your soils, for example, through sustainable practices like mulching, digging soil and water conservation structures in your field, planting trees, shade trees in your coffee, that brings back the biodiversity. So that is one way, or the second way. The other is sustainable energy is a key issue, because 90% of farmers in Uganda or households in Uganda use biomass for cooking. So that means they are going to cut trees to come down and cook. So we are trying to promote sustainable energy practices, for example, solar, small-scale solar, so they can buy a small, which can light the house, which can, the children can be able to read, And we are also promoting biogas production. So, yeah, from the waste from animals, as a sustainable energy solution. We are also promoting cook stoves, improved cook stoves. Yeah, so those cook stoves, instead of using, a big bunch of firewood, you just use one firewood and it's able to cook, the whole meal for the family. So those are some of the methods that we are really trying to encourage our farmers to ensure that, we live in harmony with nature, but at the same time, we are doing biodiversity conservation.
So people could be a bit misled by the fact that it's called International Coffee Partners, but actually you deal with a lot of things that have not directly to do with coffee, but at the end of the day strengthen the tissue of the production, and in particular tackle the problem of the fragile production system. We didn't say it in advance. Most of you are professionals of the field and know it, but coffee is the second commodity exchange in the world in terms of quality, in terms of quantity and value, after oil, and therefore it's absolutely important to consider the fact that a fragile system to produce it in time of challenges like pandemic or, as Claudia mentioned, atmospheric tragic event can really put in danger the drink we all like. Well, are there any questions from the audience? Do we collect any of them? No? Okay, so very well. I think we are just in time. We leave the last word to Giuseppe as the padrone di casa of the day, for we are in Turin, the city where this amazing company was founded a couple of years ago, not a couple of centuries, but even more than a century ago. It's 127 now. Yeah. And therefore, Giuseppe, your let's say, expectation for the future. We talked a lot about the challenges and the fears for the future. Now, let's see what are the expectations of a professional involved in this amazing activity.
I can say that despite, of course, there are some turbulence, a lot of headwinds. We say in our company that we are here to blend for better.
Yeah, okay.
And so our vision is to mix our best people, our ideas, our, of course, innovation, everything we can put on the table to try to play our part to lay down the foundation of a future better world. That is not, of course, a revolution, but is a very important evolution to keep, of course, in consideration the best we have, and to try, of course, to get rid of the worst we have.
Yeah.
But with a lot of commitment and with a long-term vision. It's impossible to try to change and to create an impact if you want everything just now, because the world is very complex and you have to deal with human life and humans, not just things. So, for example, when we go in a coffee-producing countries, of course, it's easy to say, we can do that, we can do that, we can do this. But many of these countries are very proud of their coffee tradition, so we have, of course, to look after them. So to create the right environment, the harmony, the cooperation, to work all together to push towards a better world for everyone and for the next generation. So I'm very positive.
Yeah.
Of course, because I trust on the capability of the good people to always find a solution to the most difficult issue and problem humanity have to face.
And you also suggested a possible new payoff. Life is all about blending. And at the end of the day, this could be also the result of this meeting. Thanks a lot to Giuseppe Lavazza, Victor, and Claudia for your amazing participation and your great insights. And thank you all.
Thank you for watching our important panel discussion. We learned a number of things about how families can be stronger after the crisis. Diversified crop cultivation can prevent families from food insecurity. Intergenerational family businesses with evenly distributed tasks provide for constant workforce availability and continuity in farm management. Joining farmer organizations helps farmers to organize themselves and support each other, also in terms of market access. Training in gender equality helps to balance unequal power levels and better distribute responsibilities and tasks. So all in all, we can say that families participating in the ICP projects were well equipped during the COVID-19 pandemic. Considering these different aspects, they might also be well prepared to face the challenges of future crises. Thank you for attending today, and make sure you subscribe to our channels for updates. Thanks a lot, and bye.